Hello and welcome back everyone to our new topic, which is an introduction to Alice 3. Lesson objectives. Developing skills in Alice 3. In order for you to be successful in this session, you need to be able to describe Alice and its uses, differentiate between visual programming and animation, and create a scene in Alice. The literacy keywords associated with this session are three-dimensional, which is something that has length, width, and depth. Direction, and there are 6 directions: left, right, up, down, forward, and backwards. Object. An object is a computer representation of a tangible item that exists in the real world. An animation is the actions and movements of the objects. Programming code are basically the instructions that tell the computer what actions the object should perform. And finally, method. That is a segment of a program that performs a specific task. So, introduction to Alice. Alice is a fun programming environment. It teaches basic programming concepts by using the setting of animated films and simple video games. In this chapter, you will learn to work in Alice. For example, you will create a scene in Alice, add objects to your scene, and move those objects around in your scene. So it's all about learning how to use Alice and what programming is all about. On the right hand side, you can see a screenshot of the Alice interface. As you can see here, we've got the world, we've got the editor, and we have blocks of code, and we will be looking at this in more detail throughout the session. So what is Alice? Alice is a visual programming tool. It uses 3D objects and storytelling to teach programming concepts. It helps you develop important skills like problem solving, creativity, and communication. And these skills that it's going to develop will be needed in the real world. So when you do leave school, you will be able to problem solve, you will be creative, and be able to communicate effectively. Now, if you want to learn to use Alice to bring stories to life, then download the latest version of Alice at alice.org/getalice/Alice3. Or if you just type it in Google, download Alice 3, you will be directed to the Alice 3 website. And when you are downloading it, you will be given the option of downloading a 64-bit version, 32-bit version for Mac, or Linux, or some of you may call it Linux. So what is visual programming? In computing, a visual programming language is any programming language that lets users create programs by manipulating program elements graphically rather than specifying them textually. It allows us to develop programs for fun games and movies. It involves selecting items from menus, dragging and dropping blocks of code. On the right hand side, you can see 2 visual programming applications. One you may or may not have used before, which is Scratch, and the other one is Alice 3, which is the one that we will be using today. Animation. Animation is basically a group of objects that are made to move around in a virtual environment. So basically, in simple terms, animation means giving life to any object in computer graphics. And they come in 2 types. The first type of animation is a movie, where the user has a one-way communication with the animation. So this means the user cannot interact with the animation. And a good example of this is when you watch movies on the TV and you have no interaction with the animation. The other type is an interactive animation, and here the user has a 2-way communication with the animation. And what I mean by this is the user can interact with the animation. So a good example of this is when you click on a mouse or type letters on the keyboard, the computer responds to the user's actions. Another name for this is events. In this course, you will learn to develop both types of animations in Alice. Objects in Alice. So an object is just what it sounds like, any sort of three-dimensional shape, such as a person, animal, piece of furniture, building, or anything else of the sort in your world is an object. Most objects are added to the world via the Add Objects button, but some, like the ground, camera, and lights, for instance, are there by default. There are also two-dimensional objects such as text and billboards. So some of you may be thinking now, what is a three-dimensional object? A 3D object has 3 dimensions, and this was one of our key words: length, width, and height. It has 6 directions of movement or degrees of freedom and multiple subparts or components. What makes an object unique? The name, the properties like the width, height, and color, methods and behaviors like move, roll, resize, and talk, and the actions of the object. Here on the bottom right hand corner you can see a bunny. This is an object in Alice. Each object has a center, and the center of an object is the reference point for the object. It is located at the intersection of the red, blue, and green axes, as you can see on this bunny. Both distance and directions are measured from this center point. The image shows the bunny object in Alice. The axes show that the bunny object can move in 6 directions: up, down, forward, backwards, left, or right. These directions of movement are called the bunny's degree of freedom. An object can be made up of many different parts or components. Here on the right hand side, you have the different components of the bunny from the left hand side. To view the components of an object in Alice, click on the drop down under the camera view, then bring your mouse over the arrow next to your object name. This will show you all the components of the object. For example, the bunny has many components such as the pelvis, spine, base, neck, head, and mouth. Objects in Alice. In Alice, 3D objects are located in the gallery. The gallery contains different categories of objects. The gallery also has different multiple browsing options. For example, you can browse according to the theme of the scene or according to the group of the object. Methods and properties of an object. So what is a method? A method is basically a set of instructions to perform a specific task. In Alice, methods are the actions that an object knows how to do. The objects perform actions like move in a direction relative to its orientation. What are properties then? These are the different features of objects that can be observed, like the size, shape, and color. In Alice, each object has a set of default properties such as the color, opacity, and location in the scene. All objects come with the default methods. To view the methods of an object, select the objects from the object menu, then click on the Procedures tab in the Methods panel. For example, here you can see that the bunny object has a set of built-in methods: move, turn, roll, say, think, play audio, and many others. To view the properties of an object, click the Setup Scene in the Camera View window. Choose the object to see its properties, or choose the object from the Object menu in the Properties panel. This will reveal the properties of the object under the Properties section as shown in the image here. For example, here you can see the bunny object has a set of default properties such as white color and the opacity set at 100% and many others. When you open up Alice, this is what you will see, disregarding the camel and the desert. A is the menu bar or the main menu in Alice. B is the camera view. C is the object menu. D is the methods panel, and this provides you with the methods of the object selected from the object menu. Each tile is a method of that object, and these methods can be used in the editor. A method is an action performed on or by an object, like an animal, person, prop, fish, or something else. The method panel divides the methods into 2 tabs: procedures and functions. Procedures are methods that perform an action, and functions are methods that ask a question or compute a value. E is the Run button. It launches a runtime camera view window and starts the animation. F is the Setup Scene button. It opens the Alice scene editor to create a scene. The Screen Editor allows you to add and arrange objects in a scene. G is the Class button. It lists all the editable classes of different objects in your project. H is the Class and Methods tab. There are two types of different colored tabs. Whenever a new Alice project is created or opened, Alice always opens the Scene Class tab and two Methods tabs of the Scene class. I is the Clipboard. It allows you to copy, cut and paste the code. J is the Editor. To create your program instructions, you drag and drop methods or control tiles here. And K is the Controls panel. It allows you to add blocks of code to the editor. Here we have A, B and C. A is the camera view. As discussed earlier, it displays the scene that has been built so far. Most of the objects that you add to the screen can be controlled directly in this window. It contains the camera controls, camera view menu, object trees, run button, edit code button. B is the properties panel and it provides controls to change objects in the scene. It includes the undo button, redo button, handle style tools, objects menu, one shot menus, and it has the object camera markers. And finally, C is the gallery. The gallery contains different categories of 3D models that you can use to build a scene. The tabs of the gallery give you different ways to browse and access the models. Camera controllers. At the bottom of the camera view, there are 3 camera controls. You can set your initial point of view in the animation using these controls. A click and hold on an arrow will move or turn the camera in that direction. Clicking and dragging an arrow will speed up the camera's move or turn. A click and drag between the 2 arrows will combine the actions of those 2 arrows. What I am looking for today is for you to create a camel family and make them perform an action. Our camel family has 4 members, a father, a mother and their 2 children. As you can see on the right hand side here, this is what I'm looking for in today's session. In order for you to be successful, you need to create a new scene using the desert template, add objects, add motion and run the animation. Once you've run the animation and it does what it is supposed to do, then I would like you to save it and upload it to show my homework. Good practice, writing and testing animations can cause a heavy load on your computer. Sometimes this can crash the system. When this happens, you can lose your unsaved work. This has happened to me quite a few times, but now I have learnt my lesson. So to avoid losing your work, save your work every 15 minutes. I save my work every 5 minutes because it's happened to me a few times, as I mentioned earlier. So to avoid that, I save it every 5 minutes. So you should also keep a backup on a flash drive or online just in case the file becomes corrupted. So let's get started then with our camel family animation. We are going to create a camel family and make them perform an action. Our camel family has 4 members, a father, a mother and their 2 children. So to get started, when you do open up Alice, it will ask you to choose your background. And the background we are going to choose is a desert. So select the desert and then click on OK. Once you've done that, just give it a couple of seconds, depending on your laptop, computer that you have. It will load up with the desert. The next step would be to select Setup Scene. Here we will add the camels. Now there's multiple ways of doing this. First of all, we can search it by camels, or we could just go to Search Gallery and type in camel, C-A-M-E-L, and then click on the camel. Give them a name. So I'm going to call this one the father camel. Select OK. Now there's 2 ways of inserting the camels. The first way is by holding down the Alt key and dragging the camel and letting go. And this one will be the mother camel. So make sure you give it an appropriate name. Names are very, very important when it comes to programming. Select OK. So I've got the father and the mother camel. Now I'm going to add the children. The other way of adding the camels is just by selecting it again and giving it an appropriate name. So I'm going to call this camel Charlie. You choose an appropriate name for your camels. So here's Charlie, and then I'll create one more because they have 2 children, and this one will be called Bella. And then select OK. Once you've done that, the next step is to add our palm trees. So let's type in palm tree. The next step will be to select the palm tree, give it an appropriate name. Palm tree is appropriate, and then select OK. Now, as you can see, the palm tree is big, very big, but don't worry, we can correct that problem by going to the panel on the right, selecting resize, and then clicking on our palm tree, left click and drag it down to make it an appropriate size. Once you've done that, you can select default again and then put your palm tree in an appropriate place, so position it appropriately, and then we can duplicate it by holding down the Alt key and just dragging, left click, hold it and then let go. I'm going to call this one palm tree 2. I'm going to make another one again, hold down the Alt key and drag it and then let go and give it an appropriate name. So this one's palm tree 3. Once you're happy with the number of palm trees you have, the next step will be to resize the children. So Charlie and Bella are the children that I have here. So I'm going to select resize and resize both of these baby camels. Once you're happy with that, select default and position them appropriately or wherever you would like to position them. Just don't worry about the starting camera view, because when you do run your animation, that will not appear. Once you're happy with that, the next step will be to select edit code. When you select edit code, you should be taken back to this screen. The next step for you would be to save your animation. So go to File, Save As, and save it as Camel Family. Now you're ready to move on to the next part. So we are going to add an action. So to do this, I would like you to select one of the camels. You decide. So to select a camel, all you need to do is just click on it. So the mother, the father, I've got Charlie here, and then I've got Bella. I've selected Bella. The next step would be to go to the procedures panel and let's make Bella move. So she's running away from the others. So to do this, what you need to do is go to the position and drag and drop the move code. And then select forward. And then here you need to decide how much do you want her to move forward. 0.5 meter, 1 meter, 2 meters, 10 or custom. I'm going to select 2 for now. So once you've done that, you can test it to see if that actually works. So Bella should move 2 meters forward, so she's running away from the others. When you're happy, you can test it by selecting Run. There you have it. You've successfully created your first ever animation in Alice 3. So let's have a look at it again. Restart. And you see Bella moving 2 meters forward. Once you're happy with that, you can select the X. What I would like you to do now is play around with the different procedures and see what you can make. Once you're happy with your animation, save it and upload it to Show My Homework. For those of you that have found this task easy, I have a challenge task for you. The challenge task, I'm hoping that you've all accepted this challenge. By accepting this challenge and accomplishing it, you will all achieve bonus points. So the challenge task is for you to create a new scene as shown in the image below, use the Wonderland template, add Alice, the Cheshire Cat and a track to your scene. Write instructions to move Alice and the Cheshire Cat so that it looks like they are running on the track. Once you've done that, save it and upload it to Show My Homework with the Camel Family task.